Welcome back to our Fertility Time series, where we're spilling the wins, the losses, and the laughs that come along with just trying to get pregnant. If you're new here, my name is Whitney. I'm your resident fertility guide, and today I am so excited to welcome my former client, Sarah. She's a mother of two and PCOS warrior who's sharing her extremely frustrating experience trying to get pregnant while her cycle was MIA, and how she went from IVF pamphlets to not only getting her cycle back, but getting pregnant naturally twice. Let's get started. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi.
I am so excited to have you here today.
So excited to talk to you. Always a good day when I get to talk to Whitney.
Well, let's just start out by telling us a little bit about who you are, where you live, who you live with.
Sure. So I live in a small town in Ohio called Hartville, and I live with my husband, Joey, and my now, thanks to Whitney, 2 kids. I have a 3-year-old son named Dodger, and then a daughter who is 19 months younger named Winter.
Let's talk about when did you decide to have kids? Like, when did you start trying, actually? Let's start there.
So started trying in 2019. It's like so funny looking back because I like don't know how I knew so little about what it took to get pregnant when I'm a woman, and like, you know, like even words like ovulation, I'm like, what's that? You know, and
Foreign.
so I remember me and my husband were on vacation and we're just like, let's have a baby. And so we're just thinking like, cool, like next month we'll have a baby, which like fast forward, like I guess rewind a little bit. I had never had a consistent period my entire life. And at that point, once I started thinking about it, I realized I hadn't had a period for over 2 years. I saw a nurse practitioner, and she was incredible. You know, she right away was like, I actually want to test you for something called PCOS. And she starts telling me about it, like leading cause of infertility. So I'm just like sitting there and like my world is just crumbling.
Panic.
And she basically told me I'm like the poster child for PCOS. Like started asking me questions about like, you know, how I've been feeling. Have I had unexplained weight gain? And like all of the things she's asking me, I'm like, yes, you know? And so I'm all of a sudden realizing like, wow, I didn't even realize how terrible I had been feeling. So my main concern is like, well, am I ever going to be able to have a baby? And the advice was kind of like, yeah, we'll give you some fertility drugs. We'll give you something to start your period. Then you'll take either letrozole or Clomid. You have PCOS, so we'll probably go the letrozole route. And then you need to cut carbs, eat lean protein, be in a calorie deficit, lose some weight, and
easy, right?
You'll get pregnant eventually, but it's going to be a really long journey.
Like you haven't been trying to do that for your entire life.
Exactly. And I'm like thinking like, well, that is what I already do. So I don't know why I'm the weight that I am. My body has always been against me is how I felt. So that is like day one of leaving the doctor. Like I just left with this diagnosis. You might get pregnant, but it's going to take a long time. You need to basically hardly eat, and take this.
Live off of sunshine and smiles.
Yes. Take this when your period starts, let me know, and I'll tell you when to take the fertility drugs. So that was where I was left after the first appointment.
So we had very minimal diet advice.
Yeah.
Primarily medication-based treatment plan.
Yes.
Okay. And so what happened after that?
I went from getting this terrible diagnosis and being terrified that I would never have babies to like cutting every ounce of happiness, that even fruit, like I wasn't eating any fruit, you know, I wasn't drinking a single drop of coffee. And I was just in this like terrified state of like, you know, and then like you said with the workouts, like I'm like, okay, like, well, I can walk, but like, is there only a certain amount I should be walking? Like, is my cortisol and I'm like thinking back and I'm like, my cortisol was through the roof because, you know, I wasn't eating and I was just constantly sitting on the couch Googling things.
All right. So we're in the restrictive phase. We're in the information over. Actually, I call it like the gather phase. You are absorbing, you're gathering information from all over the world.
Yes.
Like you're getting internet information, watching YouTube videos.
Yep.
You're taking some information from your doctor, bits and pieces
Yes.
everywhere.
And so, and throughout this process, I had started Provera, I believe it's called, to start my periods. I think it took 3 different rounds of that before my period even started. And so I would take these pills and then it's like, okay, your period should be starting. And like, then that's when I started to get suspicious. I'm like, okay, they're giving me medicine that is designed to start my period, and I'm still not starting my period. And so I just started thinking like, well, what is this doing to me if I'm not, you know what I mean? If like even the medication isn't working. And so then I started looking for information on Instagram and just seeing like, okay, well, there has to be other people out there that I can like see videos of their experience, you know? And so then of course, like all my for you page is like all these different dietitians and just tons of information, which led me to you.
At that point, how long had you been doing that
So
kind of Provera letrozole combo?
I got home from vacation beginning of July, went to the doctor, started those right away. So July, this is now December, end of December. December 30th is when we talked the first time.
We've done several cycles at that point.
And I was crazy. Like the hormones were making me so crazy. Like I telling my husband, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I was just crying all the time. Like, I would have mood swings and like just, you know, all these hormones going through me and then just expecting to be pregnant the next month and then just like being let down over and over. And then when you talk to the doctor, they're just like, okay, we'll do it again. Like, yeah, it's going to take a while. Like, and just very little hope or encouragement. And I was feeling worse and worse and worse, you know, not better. And so I was just kind of like, I just had this gut feeling like, if I were to get pregnant and this is how I feel, like my body is a mess. I feel awful. And then I'm like, okay, what if I do get pregnant with this last round of letrozole? I'm going to be terrified of having a miscarriage. Like, I know that if I do have a miscarriage and my body is this unhealthy, I'm going to blame myself for the rest of my life. And so I was just like so sad to not take that final round. But I was also like, there was something in me that is like, this is not good for you. And like bringing a child into the world when you are a mess is like not going to be good. And so I was just like, all right, like I need to just like be at peace with like getting myself healthy, getting myself to a happy place. And it's going to happen when, you know, when God wants it to happen and when I'm in a healthy place. So that's when you stepped in.
Well, and that's such a hard decision to make because I always liken fertility or the trying to conceive process kind of like gambling.
Yeah.
Like maybe just one more. What if this is the one? What if this is the one? Like you're constantly in that kind of mindset. Like maybe one more, maybe just this. Like what if I'm just 4 weeks away from a positive pregnancy test? So when you're talking about pivoting your plan, or in a lot of my cases when I'm working with clients, I prefer that they take a break. They don't always have to take a break depending on what's going on. Each individual scenario is
for
different.
Sure.
But devoting that time to focusing on yourself versus and like taking a step out of that gambling kind of mindset, that pressure that you're putting on yourself, it feels like you are quitting. It does. Feels like you're giving up in a way.
Yeah. And if I would have had to do that on my own, like, because I think whether I was working with you or not, I would have had to step away from the fertility meds because they were making me feel terrible. And it was also like, I didn't just like expect to be pregnant the next month. It was like a for sure thing in my head. Yeah. So it was like at the end of each month, I was just beating myself up and I was like, what is wrong with me? Like I'm a woman and I can't even do the simple thing that my body was created to do. Like I can't even create a baby, you know? And I was just like beating myself up. And so,
well, it sounds like you didn't start with crazy high self-esteem. And then each month adjust. Like self-image, self-esteem, like that entire, like your version of yourself or how you're relating to your body.
Yes. It was just, it was like the lowest low I've ever felt. And so exactly what you just described, when I didn't take that final round, like I remember apologizing to my husband and just being like, I'm sorry, you know, that my body can't give you a baby, you know? And So I felt like I was giving up, but then sorry, I'm getting emotional.
No, don't do it.
So I felt like I was giving up, but I also just remember like, I was so relieved to know I'm not going to get pregnant next month. I don't have to take a pregnancy test. Like
a deep breath.
And so I felt like for the first time in months, I think it was 6 months at this point, I was like, I can just relax this month. I will do my calls with Whitney. I'm going to do whatever Whitney says, because that, and some people can't do that all or nothing. Like I remember you telling me like, you're crazy. Like cause you gave me like I think it was like I don't even know, a 6-week plan of like, maybe start with like swapping out your plastic containers for glass.
No, you went all in.
And I was like, okay.
Here was the water and the deep end.
Yes.
Like dove head first.
Yes.
You didn't even dip your toes in.
I did not. Like for some people that wouldn't be good, but I was at a place where I was doing, I was all in a way that was not making me feel better. But when I knew like, this is somebody that I can trust, this is somebody who's coming from a natural standpoint, like I took these sheets that you gave me, and I was like, okay, so I need to change some of the products I'm using on my body. I need to actually eat foods that have natural fat in them. And, I can eat an avocado, and I just went all in, and it was so comforting because I wasn't Googling, contradicting things. And so, I really did go all in, and there was moments that it was overwhelming, but it was like in such an exciting way, because I remember thinking like, you know what, like working with you doesn't guarantee a baby, but each time we had a call, I felt more calm. I felt like I was starting to love myself more, and coming to terms with like, I know if I never have a baby, there are going to be times for the rest of my life that is hard. But if I feel good and I feel in a healthy place, and I know that I did everything the best that I could while taking care of myself, like I will find peace in that, And so it was just each week that we talked, I just got in a more healthy mindset and started to lose weight and started to have energy and just felt the best I've ever had,
Actually, can we go, let's backtrack a little bit. What were some of the biggest things that we worked on? Because I mean, I know from a practitioner standpoint, but I'd love to know from your standpoint, what were the biggest things that you worked on during that time?
So a big area that you started in was just, okay, so we started working together in, would it have been February of 2020? Yes. So we started out in a normal time of life, and then things quickly shifted. While we were working together before I got pregnant, I was laid off from my job I had been at for 9 years, and just.
So we're setting the stage. This was not a calm period of time.
Was not.
The exact opposite was happening.
Yes.
We had a pandemic. We had lost a job, trying to get pregnant. So this wasn't just like your life was peaches.
No, it was, my life was at the most chaotic point it had ever been at. Yeah, crazy. My husband lost his job.
Still not as bad.
Yeah, my husband lost his job as well. So like just chaos going on. And so even before all of that happened, just like, my job was stressful. And so you really started with the mindset and just working on lifestyle and rest. And I just remember thinking like, okay, I'm going to have so much to do. Like I got to work on this. But it was really like, you need to rest. Like you need to have a nighttime routine. Like I almost felt like I was like treating myself like a little baby. Like
a little baby. Yep. I joke that we're all just big toddlers. We like our bedtimes. We like our snacks. We like our routines.
Yes. And I remember like when you told me I need to have a bedtime routine, I'm like, Whitney, like my bedtime routine is like, I get to shut my mind off and watch my shows. And you're telling me like
TikTok was just coming out. Everybody was on.
Like you're telling me that like blue light is an issue. Like I kind of, that's honestly like, you could have told me not to eat things and I would have been fine. But like when you were telling me like, maybe don't fall asleep to the TV, I was like, Whitney, shut up. But,
I hate you a little bit.
Yes. That was one of the first things I worked on. So, about an hour before bed, I would get my cup of spearmint tea. I would grab a book. I would read in bed. and really just wind down without any outside noise. I would go to bed at 10 o'clock. I would get, as close to 8 hours as I could. And that was like just an amazing step, like just changing that last hour of my day. I felt, so rested, so calm, and just like taking away the TV, social media, like all of the noise that we're so used to living with, like that was super helpful for my stress levels. And then you just focused on small changes with exercise, like go for a walk, like listen to an audiobook, listen to music, just like start with a walk. And then when you start feeling good, like add in weights or find a workout that you enjoy. Like I hate running. And you're like, don't go for a run, like go for a walk or do like, I remember you're like, if you like to dance, if you like whatever you like. And so I just remember starting to think like, in high school I was an athlete, and so started thinking of exercise just more like, what is a fun way that I can get healthy, And yeah, it was really just lifestyle changes and just finding things that brought joy back into my life. And just like the answers really started to fall into place very quickly when we did the Dutch test and started taking supplements. And it just, it felt amazing. Just each week, my body was feeling better. Weight that I had been trying to lose for years, like was literally just like falling off. Like I remember at the one point you were like, how much weight have you lost? And like, that wasn't my goal. That's the thing. Like my goal for years was like following like fad diets, and like nothing ever really worked. I was like, oh, I've lost 30 pounds. And you were like, that's crazy. Like, that's insane. And it wasn't, I was eating more than I usually did on a daily basis. Things just were very quickly falling into place.
So remind me, how long did it take you? So when we met, you hadn't had a natural cycle without the addition of medication in 2 years. And then what happened after you had kind of started to implement some of these things?
So, it was 4 months into working with you that I started having a cycle, and my cycles were about 35 days apart. It started with between my first two were 45 days. And so then you were like, let's try to get that down to like 35 to 32 days. And I remember like being surprised that it didn't have to be 28 days. And I still, to this day, I don't think I'll ever have a 28-day cycle. And like, that's fine. Cause I just remember, thinking like I've gone I think it was like close to 2.5 years without a cycle, and I have to get it down to like 28 days, like overwhelming, but got it down to 45. And then each month it would get a little bit closer. And now like I still, I've had 2 babies, and I am still breastfeeding my youngest. I've been breastfeeding for like 3.5 years.
I was going to say, all in total, that's a really long time. You have been breastfeeding since the pandemic.
I have. Yes, I have. Breastfed my son all through my pregnancy with my daughter. And like, I still have a 35-day cycle. I just thought that was crazy, because some people when they're breastfeeding don't even get a cycle. So it's just like, I put in so much work, and like my body knows what to do now. And it's amazing.
Well, and that's one of the things that I absolutely love, because you not having a cycle, it extends past your ability to get pregnant.
Yes.
It's your bone health. It's your muscle maintenance. It's your hormone balance. It's your dopamine, your neurotransmitters, your ability to concentrate and get work done. It's not just a vanity or something they recommend. It is a crucial piece of your entire health puzzle.
Yes.
And so if you're not getting a cycle, yes, I want, obviously when we work together, our aim is to get pregnant, but my goals extend much farther than that. I want you to be able to have a healthy existence outside of pregnancy. So let's do a timeline.
Yes.
We started working together, started to get cycles back around like that 4-month mark. How long did it take you to get pregnant?
So
I think because everybody wants to know, how long is this going to take?
I found out that I was pregnant on September 3rd of the year that we were working together. So from the time I was working with you, started working with you December 30th of 2019, and got a positive pregnancy test September 3rd of 2020. And so that was my timeline with you. From meeting with the doctor and all of that, it was July of 2019. So I was pretty lucky. Like I did put a lot of work in and was like balls.
I don't think lucky is the right
Yeah,
word to use.
like
I don't think that, because this didn't just happen. It just didn't fall into your lap.
yes.
You took very intentional changes and hired and invested in yourself.
Yeah.
I'm be the first one to tell you guys, I'm not cheap. I am not a cheap investment.
But very worth it. Like seriously. I shouldn't say that. I discount myself because I look at these women who, you know, were not as, there's always somebody that's worse off and there's always someone that's more fortunate. And so
Absolutely.
I look at, you know, even friends of mine that have gone through losses and then can't get pregnant, and you know, and so I do consider myself very fortunate, but I worked very, very hard. So you're right.
Well, and it didn't happen fast. If we actually look at the
Yeah.
timeline, it took 9 months of devoted change. And that is it's so hard when you're ready to have a baby. Because
Yes.
you were ready to have a baby months ago, last year, whenever. You've already been waiting.
Yes.
And so then to sign up for something that you know you're going to have to wait more, you know that this is going to be a long process.
Yeah.
It is the most frustrating thing about fertility. There's no fast.
Yeah.
Your body operates at its own pace, and we can't
Yeah.
speed that up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like for those that are trying to get pregnant and are in that waiting period, like I just remember thinking like, I need this to happen right now. But then the more I learned, you always say like it takes 90 days to make improvements with your egg quality and all of that. And so like just be at peace with knowing that like each day that you're taking care of yourself, like you are bettering your chance of a healthy pregnancy, and at peace in that. Because I just remember thinking like, I don't care, like what, like I just want a positive pregnancy test. And then when I heard that, I was like, okay, but I don't just want a positive pregnancy test. I want a healthy baby. You know, I want a stress-free pregnancy. You know, no matter what, you're going to be worried during pregnancy. But like I went into a pregnancy feeling the best I had felt in years. With PCOS, I was afraid of gestational diabetes, like was not an issue at all.
I remember you texting me. I just passed
yes.
my doctor's freaking out.
I was shocked. I was just like, okay, now I'm going to have to deal with this. And I didn't have it with either pregnancy. So yeah, it was two amazing pregnancies and healthy babies. So
well, can I backtrack a little bit?
yeah.
I want to talk a bit because you had your first baby.
Yes.
And he was probably 6 months old. He wasn't very old when you had contacted me and you're like, hey, I'm thinking about number 2.
Yes.
I know it might take a little while. I kind of want to think about it. And then what happened?
So yes, and I remember you like saying like, you know, it might not take as long with this one, but I was just thinking like, I'm going to have to redo this every time I want one. So I want to get, I remember contacting you and I could tell you were just like, you're good, like enjoy your baby, you know? And so, you know, me and my husband were not using protection at all. And I was just like, you know, hopefully when he's 2, I'll be pregnant again. Oh, I had been like thinking like, man, I'm getting the flu. And then I started thinking, I was like, my gosh, the last time I had all of these feelings, I did not have the flu. I was pregnant with Dodger. And so I was like, there's no way. I hadn't even had a period. So like, I was like, if I am like, that's the first time I ovulated. So I go and take it. I literally pee on it. I start to set my 3-minute timer. I'm like, Siri, set timer for 3 minutes. As I'm setting it down, like the pee had just hit it. It was like dark. And this is a week before my son's first birthday. So I'm like, that's a dark line. Like I'm like pregnant. Like I was like 5 or 6 weeks, I think. And so just shocked, like absolutely shocked because, you know, you think like, you know, I have PCOS, like I'm going to have to go through this long process every time. And I had a baby, you know, and I was up.
And you were breastfeeding.
I was breastfeeding. I was up all hours of the night, eating ice cream that I didn't eat for my whole pregnancy. Well, you know, I didn't go crazy, but I wasn't by any means perfect. I had been trying to get pregnant with Dodger. And so I was just shocked. And so my kids are 19 months apart.
After you've been told you weren't going to have any natural babies.
Yes. So yeah, it just happened very easily. Like, worked out great. And my daughter is healthy and my pregnancy was amazing. And so it really, like, investing in getting healthy before you get pregnant is so worth it for so many reasons. So
well, Sarah, thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for being here today. I love chatting with you and
Yeah.
getting to relive your story.
Yes,
is just
it's amazing.
favorite.
Thank you so much.
If Sarah's story has inspired you and you'd like to learn a little bit more about the specific steps that she took to transform her fertility, then I'd like to invite you to check out the Fertility Reset Masterclass I linked below. Inside, I'm sharing the systemic barriers that are stopping you from getting pregnant that are not your fault, and teaching you the proven framework I use with my one-to-one clients to get them in a fertile flow and grow the family of their dreams. The link to join is right down there below, and I've also added an application if you already know that you want to work with me this year. I'll see you in the next video.